Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay. Nikki Adams of Legal Action for Women and I went to see Mumia some years ago. At that time, when you came to see him, his hands were shackled. And it took a visit by Desmond Tutu, Bishop Desmond Tutu, to complain to the prison before they allowed Mumia even to have people visit him without his arms being shackled. That is the condition, gives you some idea of what it means to be on death row. Now I want to say, sorry sister.
I'm saying they've been doing that to us for a long time.
They have been. They've been doing it for eons. We know about this. We want to say something about Mumia. First of all, the kind of person that he is. He's a great human being. And that means that many people all over the world who are anti-racist and anti-death penalty and anti-exploitation and imperialism have an additional reason to be supporters of Mumia. And that's why there are people in Germany demonstrating today and people in France who demonstrate every single week outside of the US Embassy for Mumia's freedom. And people all over the United States and in many other countries, they're responding to what Mumia stands for. They're responding that he never gave up the fight, not only for his own liberty, but for the liberty of all of us. He's never stopped being a journalist and telling the truth. And that's why he got into trouble with the law, my dear sisters and brothers, because he told the truth about what was happening to black people in Philadelphia. And the fraternal order of the police can't have that. Now I want to say just two other things, because I know other people want to speak. First of all, he had two death penalties. The first one was when they shot him and kicked him and beat him and expected that he was going to die, but he didn't.
That's right. Yes.
He had to live with the struggle. Mumia has a lot of things to get on with every day, and they can't kill him so easily. And the second one was in that courtroom when he was thrown out of his own trial and unable to tell his story of what happened that night. Now a lawyer asked him once, what did happen that night? And he said, I haven't a clue, I was shot. I couldn't have shot anybody else, but I don't know what happened. I collapsed, I was bleeding to death. How can I testify that I killed somebody when I couldn't have killed anybody? The second thing I want to say is that Mumia is leading a movement inside the prisons for justice. And the way that he and many others, black, Afro-American, indigenous, Latino, and white have found is to become jailhouse lawyers. They're lawyers in there. They made themselves lawyers. They learned all the stuff that the lawyers tell us we can't know anything about. And they confront the law, and sometimes they win, but they always get something out of it. Conditions are a bit improved. The law is slightly shifted. And we who are not inside, we have a responsibility, not only to Mumia, but to all of those inside who have been strong movement people and who have been put away to undermine our movement. And we will never tolerate that. Not only must we support them in general, but we must take their direction about how they want us to support them. Because sometimes people take it upon themselves to say this and that which the prisoners don't want said. So let us be very careful that people who cannot give direction every day, nevertheless give direction to our movement. It is our movement, and they are leading a very important part of it from inside the prisons. Yes. We will be publishing the book that Mumia has written, an English version, on jailhouse lawyers, and it will have information about jailhouse lawyers in this country. I just want to tell you one thing about it. We advertised to meet them because we didn't know any. And they said, well, there aren't too many, and they're all white. Well, there were many, and they weren't all white. Yes. Guess what? Half of them were black. Yes. And half of them, that half, was fighting racism and being punished. Additionally, for refusing racism inside the prisons. So Mumia is delighted that this is how his book is being introduced. And let us, as supporters of Mumia and Mumia's freedom, let us support the jailhouse lawyers in this country. They need our help. They need our support. And we want to help them for the movement for justice right here at home, which will definitely help Mumia. Power to the sisters and the brothers in struggle.
That's all right. Free Mumia. Free Mumia.
The next speaker will be from FRFI.
Can you hear me? Excellent. We in Fight Racism, Fight Imperialism want to say we unite our struggle with all of you here. It's excellent to see that we have so many people outside the face of US imperialism, standing just like Mumia does, every single day of his life in US prisons, fighting himself in the struggle for justice against US imperialism. Imperialism is by its nature racist. The history of all of capitalism and imperialism will show you this. It's the case in the United States that imperialism, with its imperialist state apparatus, will oppress minority groups and will oppress its own working class. In the United States, which has 5% of the world's population, it has 25% of the world's prisoners. This is the land of the free, home of the brave.
Right.
We can't forget ourselves over here in Britain. Britain, as the world's oldest imperialist power, is of course one of the most racist of all. In Britain, we have over 85,000 prisoners in British prisons, of which over a quarter are black or ethnic minority. If you're a black or ethnic minority group in Britain, you're 26 times as likely to be stopped and searched by the police. Inside Britain, we don't officially have the death penalty, but say that to the 69 people who last year committed suicide inside British prisons. British prisons are torture states, just like United States ones. And we can't just limit it to the prisons either. We've got prisons proper prisons like Holloway and Pentonville. We can't forget other prisons, the immigration detention centres. When US and British imperialists invaded Iraq, when it invaded Afghanistan, when it attacks and bombards people every single day. What happens? These people try and flee from imperialism. And what does imperialism do? It puts up borders and says you're not welcome. It says you're not welcome, it'll put you inside a prison, an immigration detention centre. In places like Yarl's Woods, Harmondsworth, other detention centres in Britain, which are run by private capitalist companies like Serco, Yarl's Woods, we find all the time that these prisoners inside these, because they're prisoners, they're not just refugees, migrants, they are prisoners of imperialism. What do they get? They get beaten, they have to go on hunger strike. They have to struggle every single day of their lives to fight against the repressive apparatus of British imperialism. Mumia recognised this in US imperialism. We've already heard that Mumia, the revolutionary that he was standing up with the Panthers every single day of his life as a revolutionary. He defended the MOVE movement in the United States, who were bombed from the air by the US local governments. You know, inside Britain here, when the Irish people who were trying to struggle against British imperialism in the North of Ireland and are still doing this, what did they do? Almost 30 years ago now, we had 10 brave Irish people who died in the fight for their right to be seen as political prisoners. And it's still going on. In July of this year, we had in Ardoyne in the North of Ireland a situation where loyalists who marched completely ignoring the Parades Commission, they were supported by the PSNI, the police services of the North of Ireland, they were supported by them. And when 200 of them broke off to attack nationalist areas, they cut the throat of one nationalist woman and 20 of them ganged up with a massive bench and almost beat a man to death. These are the little neo-colonial instruments that British imperialism, just like US imperialism, uses to divide and rule. It's only oppressed people we've got inside. We've got black people in Britain, we've got Irish people struggling in the North of Ireland, and of course the people who are fighting imperialist troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. All of them get this treatment. We just saw the other day how British soldiers were called out by, we've had people go to the High Court calling out on British soldiers who have been torturing and abusing people inside their own prisons in Afghanistan and Iraq. This is all the time that's happened because imperialism is racism, imperialism is oppression, and imperialism is genocide. Britain, as the world's oldest imperialist country, which has 6.25 times its GDP in foreign assets, plundering the world dry, is stepping up its repressive apparatus right now. If you protest against British imperialism support for the racist state of Israel, if you protest against British imperialism in the North of Ireland, then what happens to you? You get chucked in prison, don't even given political status, you get called a murderer, a terrorist, a criminal. These are the things that British imperialism, dropping its bombs across the world, wants to call other people. Now, Mumia knew damn well what was criminal, and he's suffering because of the criminal US state. So while we're here in Britain today, struggling as we should be, defending Mumia as the great revolutionary he is, we should never forget that our own state here is itself one of a repressive imperialist status, and it's our job, with all the peoples of the world fighting against imperialism, to unite our struggle against British and US imperialism.
That's right.
100%. Very welcome.
Comrades and friends, as you know, when Mumia was first arrested and wrongly convicted for this crime, which the state knows he didn't commit, the first people to help Mumia were the RCP, the Revolutionary Communist Party, the Maoists. And after that it was the PDC, the legal arm of the Spartacist League. And they're here tonight, they're going to talk about the case. As you know, Mumia has sacked his lawyer, and today it's Judge Ritter who will be presenting the arguments for him in the court. So without further ado, Kate from the PDC will talk to you now.
Good. Liven up yourself.
I want to thank the organizers of this demonstration. It's very important that they organize this here today. Speaking for the PDC, as Emma said, we're a class struggle, legal and social defense organization associated with the Spartacist League, which is a Marxist organization. We did take up Mumia's case when we first learned about it in 1987 from the Philadelphia Move people. And we fought to make it the focal point of opposition to the racist death penalty. Okay. Mumia is an innocent man.
100%.
For anyone that has eyes to see, who has ever read any of the evidence, it's very clear he's an innocent man. We call for his freedom now. We say abolish the racist death penalty, which is, in the US, the legacy of slavery. It's the lynch rope made legal. Mumia has been on death row, as you know, over 28 years because of who he is, not for anything he did, but because he, as a Black Panther Party member in his youth, fought against racist oppression, went on to fight as a journalist, became known as the voice of the voiceless, fighting for the oppressed. Mumia was also in the crosshairs of the state because he took up the cause of MOVE in Philadelphia. As the comrade from the FRFI already referred to, the Black MOVE commune was firebombed by the Philly cops and the FBI in 1985, incinerating 11 people, including 5 children.